Hello and welcome back to Tale of the Peopleist. This is a hybrid game and talk show where I play through games and tell you some real stories about North Korea, human rights, and development based on research I've done in the field. Up until now, I've pretty much just been talking about North Korea in terms of human rights. And it's unfortunate to say that most people only talk about North Korea in two ways, which is the less common human rights, especially if they're going to criticize the Kims and maybe joke about how you can't say anything without getting locked up in a gulag. And the more common talks in international security, especially the whole Rocket Man bit and North Korea as this historic military nation with major enemies that it is technically at war with. Well, honestly, I don't like this because I've been talking about North Korea from the human rights direction. Why do I talk about North Korean human rights? Well, yeah, because it's a huge problem and there's so much that people don't really know about it beyond the gulags and starving in the 90s. But also because what human rights really is a focus on human beings. And what does that mean? What are North Koreans? They aren't some kind of worker ants whose entire minds are devoted to some kind of like hive mind built around Queen Kim or something like that. They're straight up humans. They do human things. They have language, music, food. They have their own jokes, all that stuff. And it might sound pretty obvious to mention that, but stop for a moment and think about it. What do you know about North Korean culture? You can probably name at least, 3 South Korean dishes off the top of your head, even if you've never been there. You definitely know some South Korean movies and singers. You might know some video games. What do you know about North Korea? What do you know about their people? I mean, there's so much that we actually already know, and there's so much for the world to find out. But even South Koreans who have hung out with actual North Koreans can name very little of what makes North Korea North Korea. So this is going to be my sub-series, North Korea the country, where you get to know a little bit about North Korean cultural and social studies, aside from all the hard talks and all the somber stories. Now, before we get into that, I want to introduce my MTG deck for today. It's kind of a work in progress, but I wanted to show off a few cool ideas I'm putting together. Next week, I'll probably go back to Swayze decks, but this one was inspired by a couple of ideas of his, especially his Blink Cats thing that's just really effective. So the core of this deck is the Airbender Ascension, which, as I showed before, it lets you blink cards in and out. And this is really useful because most of my creatures have entry effects. But instead of using blue, I'm using red, because red entry can cause damage over and over. So like for example here, Viashino Pyromancer can just drop 2 right when it comes in. So especially key to this are O'Hare and the Sharpshooter. So, which as a combo, they can do 4 direct damage with nothing else. And with a fully unlocked Ascension, they can repeat this 4 damage combo every single turn, sometimes twice in a turn. And yeah, the Pyromancer here has a similar synergy with just 2 direct damage. But you could also put the Pyromancer and Sharpshooter together. You'll get 3 damage every blink. And Pyromancer, Sharpshooter, and O'Hare. Also, that's going to be 4 damage per blink. So very useful, very quickly can finish off direct damage to the enemy player. And another aggressive blinker over here, we have Aang. He can airbend an enemy permanent every turn if he's blinked. So that would slow down attackers a lot. But we have to be careful not to blink too many like entry effect enemy dudes. That can also cause trouble. We also have a few returning white creatures for drawing cards, for land hunting and token generation, so that can build up and generate value on the Airbender Ascension. And it can build out moderately wide and then suffocate the opponent with repeated direct damage, so opponents have to move fast or sweep, but it also retaliates against fast decks by using all kinds of exiles, Seam Rip, Authority, Light Stall, things like that. Exiles and slowing things down with airbending or just jacking up the cost a little bit. Let's pick this deck up and hop into standard casual. Now, a good place to start while talking about a country is with the country itself. So here's the challenge. Name 2 places in North Korea. And I'm sure you can name 1 city. Pyongyang, right? But name a second one. I don't think I'll have time to tell you about like every single place in North Korea, but I do want to walk you through the 9 provinces and give you something to remember them by with this talk and another. So Pyongyang is, by the way, not actually on the DMZ, but it's more like at the center of the 9 provinces, roughly halfway up the west coast of the country. So North Korea is kind of short on the west side, long on the east side. And there are 3 provinces that border South Korea, including 2 that touch Pyongyang. And so yeah, that's 3 provinces around Pyongyang, and then there's the sea on the west coast. And then there are 4 provinces that border China. And there are also 4 special cities, and each of them has something cool about them. Now, I don't know how much I can get to all these, but I want to tell you at least something about each of them. If you're a human rights guy, you have to know about the northern 4. So I'll give you a second to guess why. Got it? Yeah, so those are the provinces where people leave to escape to China. And they're also really important for economic trade because China is such a big partner for all that. So that will take us first to, which one is that? North Pyongan, sorry. And yeah, there is a South Pyongan, but we won't talk about that one today. I'll talk about the fact that North Pyongan is basically known for the major city of Siniju. So I'll talk about that city for the most part. And we'll get to some others later. Siniju connects to China with what they call the Friendship Bridge. It's so friendly that you'll see pictures of young Koreans being bussed off across it to do terrible jobs with rock bottom pay. You can go back to my second video on MTGs and refugees for more info on that. It's also a really big center for imports and exports. So in case you're wondering what North Korea sends out to other countries, good amount of luxury goods and beers, but not really good quality ones. I mean, the beer I hear is pretty good, but not the luxury goods. I think Chinese buy some traditional medicine goods like ginseng, which Koreans also love, but I think they only really do that to get them at a cheap price. Yeah, can you imagine that? China looking for a cheap import source? But they also send out metals and coal, which I'll get to that later. That's more interesting to talk about imports though, if you ask me, because it's like this really big part of North Korean culture. Almost anything that North Korea gets from abroad, it gets from China, so it probably passes through the Friendship Bridge first. On one hand, you're getting white market goods, we're talking like rice, corn, oil, the basics. And then you got stuff that you're not supposed to have in North Korea, like cars. I have a whole talk on this. Next week I'll have a briefing video on the KIS channel, so you can watch that. Yeah, you can check in to learn all about the situation with cars in North Korea. Not gonna buy it. Okay, now I can do this. And I can do this. You're gonna hate this, man. It's gonna do some damage. Get another cat. Bada bing, bada boom. Send this cat out. Send it back in. Get another cat. Bada bing, bada boom. Man, I like this combo a lot. This is a fun combo. Okay, yeah. So cars, but also like radios, cell phones, TVs, DVD players, DVDs, SD cards. What's wrong with all that? Man, there's so much to say. I have to give a separate lecture on smuggled and white market media in North Korea. I'll just give you a little taste in the meantime. So radios can pick up frequencies from outside of North Korea. So if you're close enough to either border, you can hear broadcasts that are not approved. Hold on a second, I gotta think just one moment. Going with the O'Hare. Yeah, if I do this, he's basically finished, I think. I think I'm gonna win this with the O'Hare. So that's gonna be 4, and then I'm gonna just link it all at the end. I think that's it. I think he's done for. Let's see. Yeah, cool. Okay. So radios, right? You can hear broadcasts that the North Korean government doesn't want you to hear. And on the south side of the DMZ, that means there is some broadcasts that are coming from South Korea specifically to inform North Korean citizens about the outside world. DVDs, SDs, they have all kinds of like international TV shows that people are really not supposed to watch because of like evil capitalist thought or something like that, you know, exposure to culture. I think I touched on that a little bit on my first episode of MTGs and refugees, why people will just like run out of the country after watching some of those dramas. But I'll have to tell you about puppet speech laws someday. That's a good one. And I really want to tell you all about the Jangmadang market culture too, which really started around this area on the North Korea-China border, but that's absolutely a lecture by itself, so I'll get to that another time. Yeah, and fun fact, I work with someone from Shinjuku, so I'll try to ask them some cool local stuff, like food and music, and see what he can tell you that's like really specific to that area, and I'll try to get back to you with that. So just, yeah, you can look forward to that a little bit. Okay, send this guy in untap, don't need the burn. I don't know, man, I wasn't doing so well with this before, but now I feel like I'm starting to cook a little bit. Let's see. Okay, so moving on to the east. Next we have Chagang. Are you serious? I guess the collector's cage. The rest of this is pretty useful. Okay, this might seem a little early, but it cooks, it works. Okay, so yeah, for a while, no one outside of North Korea could go into North Korea and visit Chagang. So why? Well, we're guessing that most of it is like military production. That's like Area 51 or New Mexico, I guess. The New Mexico of North Korea. What was that, Roswell? But if you try to sat map the area, you're going to be just SOL. North Korean military production is way physically underground. And you want to guess why? It's not because of the satellites, believe it or not, but because of the Korean War. So the US just mad carpet bombed the northern part of the peninsula during the Civil War. So communist forces literally had to hide underground to stay alive. So that bombing and all, it caused all this infrastructural damage, just massive damage to the cities up in North Korea, but that's where the Japanese had been, you know, before the end of World War II. But it also forced the communists to take a new strategy to get through the Civil War, right? So military analysts always point out how North Korea is this like tunnel country, and we don't even know the half of it in the West. So anyway, Chagang has tons of resources. Not that much farmland, but all kinds of like metal ore mines, iron, gold, silver, lead, zinc, and all kinds of like stones too, not just metal. So you can check the citations list if you want to learn some exact numbers, figures, things like that. There's this paper from Korea Science that gets into it. We're looking pretty good here, right? Yeah, I'm not going to send that guy out just yet, but I am going to bounce the Helpful Hunter to get 2 more direct damage plus a card draw. I mean, we're moving here, unless he's got some pretty bad wipe spell, I think. Oh, sweet. I'm gonna need a little more mana. So there's also some wood production. There's a lot of wood production in Chagang. Timber, I mean, like trees and stuff, right? So I imagine that's pretty important for like all the housing and factory projects. So Chagang is not actually the biggest mining province, but it does produce the largest massive resources for military development, which is kind of cool, but also terrifying that you have all these military industries and all these human development projects. I mean, it's cool but terrifying that you have these military industries and human development projects that are just right on top of each other. That's the duality of man. By the way, the one part of Chagang that's open to tourists now, it's Mampo City. They opened up a bridge to Jian in China, crossing the Tumen River. They opened it up like 6 years ago. And I'm not sure if you can go there unless you're Chinese, but if you are, it's a great place to do this Goguryeo historic pilgrimage tour. The two linked cities of Mampo and Jian in each country. Just go between the two and you can see all kinds of history. The Korean homeland, right? Korean history. Next up on the east is Yangon. There's a lot I personally want to say about this province, but I want to start with the more fun stuff. So there's a city called Samjeon, and North Korea just started building a bunch of new resorts over there. So it's this pretty lake next to Baekdusan, which is the Korean side of the mountain connecting North Korea and China. The Chinese side of the mountain is called Changbaishan. So you can imagine the kind of people who are into mountains would go over to Yangon for tourism. Now, honestly, I'd love to see it too. I'm a big mountain person, but it's probably not safe for me to go there now, right? I mean, I'm American. It's also a pretty special place for North Koreans. Well, the state claims that Kim Jong-il was born in a military camp in Baekdusan during World War II. Actually, he was born in the Soviet Union during World War II. But yeah, don't try to tell them that. Now, the not so fun stuff, right? That's my specialty. So, big city in Yangon is Haesan City. Haesan used to be this copper mining town. I imagine it got pretty rich with it being in a Chinese trade location. I think it went down in production in the 1990s, then it went back up in the 2010s with Chinese investing in the mines. So you can guess like Siniju, it's like a big China trade city. And that's probably why it comes up a lot in escape stories. Yeah, nice try, buddy, but no. Alright, he's got 4 cards, probably some kills over there, so I'm probably useless at this point. Yeah, if you read a lot of escape stories, a lot of stories from people who escaped, then they're gonna tell you that they're from Haesan, that they escaped through Haesan, whatever. But now what I'm guessing is Siniju, it's very huge, it's very well monitored on both sides. So some people escape from there, but I don't know how easy it is for people to get across. So when I say some people escape, I don't know if that's a lot or just some. Oh, I did it in the wrong order, didn't I? Definitely did it in the wrong order. Well, at least I got this. At least I'm cooking now. Yeah. Clock's ticking. Yeah, clock's ticking. He's probably gonna wipe the board soon. Looks like he doesn't have as much for creatures. What I'm guessing is it's hard to get out of Siniju But for Haesan, you have the mountains right there. And if you have a guide, maybe you can just slip through the mountains. I felt like for some time, every woman who wrote an escape story with an English publication mentioned Haesan. I think probably Park Yeon-mi was the first one who I read who mentioned it, but a lot of others from that series, the FSI sponsored books. There's the girl with 7 names, something like that. I think she also came from Haesan. You can look those up. You can read through some of those escape stories and see how many mention the city. So, you know, some of them, they left because they had like family members or close friends who were going back and forth across the Korea-Chinese border doing some kind of trade. Probably some people were getting smuggled out that way too. And I think there's one more reason why people escape from Haesan, besides the fact that they can, because it's close to China. You know, because it's close to China, I think there are some bad crackdowns because it's kind of like feedback loop. So if someone escapes, or maybe like a bunch of people in a row escape, the police are going to be walking around more. You're going to hear some announcements, stuff that's going to put you on alert. Don't go there, don't do that, kind of thing. Hey, locals, you know, get back to work. Don't you even think of looking at that river? You're not getting out. Don't try it. We know where your family lives. They had this really big market culture. We'll let that one through because I think I can deal damage more efficiently than he can right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slow him down. Do a little bit of damage. Maybe I should have done the councils first and Arabo there. Oh man, he just keeps missing land drops. I feel bad for him. Okay, let's get this guy out so that he can pump up my cats and get another cat on the field. This guy out here so that he can't do as much, and then all in. Start really putting some pressure on him. I know he's not going to want to block with that mole. So Haesan, they had this really big market culture, and they're nowhere near Pyongyang. So whenever the border gets shut down, or when police show up at the markets and close everything down, people go hungry, and that's gonna piss some people off. So others just have to run away, or they'll starve to death. It's kind of an exciting place sometimes, but it's also terrible to live on other times. All right, so the last province up top, not the last place, but the last province, is North Hamgyong. This is probably the biggest mining region in North Korea. I mentioned another mining region, but North Hamgyong is actually the biggest one, whereas Chagang is the biggest like military supplier mine. So right, North Hamgyong, it has the Musan iron mine, which is probably the biggest iron mine in North Korea. You can double check that. And again, North Hamgyong, it's a metals trade hotbed because it's right next to China. One of the things I want to point out here, by the way, from a development and human rights perspective, is how much of a missed opportunity North Hamgyong mining is. Basically, China is only interested in North Korean metals because they're cheap. So they're not really investing in it. They don't want to build it up. They don't care if it becomes this big thing or not. They're just treating it like dollar store iron. But the whole world loves iron and steel investments. I mean, you can look at how nice southern South Korea is getting from the POSCO steel trade. They say everyone in Pohang and Ulsan, those are places near Busan, they're saying everyone there is pretty rich, like it's some kind of Beverly Hills town, because everyone there has a place in the steel export trade or car and shipbuilding with local steel. Just business is booming seriously with international investment and trade down in South Korea. But there's no POSCO. There's no Hyundai or SK Energy or anything like that in North Korea. No one is saying, let's get some ships over to Hamgyong, let's put down some roads, let's get that iron out. We're all going to be loaded. No one can, like I said before, because metals trade is all sanctioned up, thanks to the UN. And North Korea as a country, it really lacks the capital to invest in its own. I mean, it really does try to, it wants to. I mean, if you think about it, even if you think the Kims are these crazy missile people, what kind of military nation wouldn't want to mine tons and tons of iron, you know, and refine steel? So North Hamgyong is this really, that's this incredible story of unrealized potential, that they have all this iron ore, but it's like constant electricity outages, no worker safety, not enough roads, not enough ships to get the ore out somewhere to sell it, the iron out. And of course, there's no trade routes. I think Russia wants to buy that iron too. Russia's right on the border, and I'll get to that in a second, but I have one more thing to mention while we're talking about North Hamgyong. I see what you're doing here. I mean, I see what you're trying to do here, buddy, but I think you're missing it. Okay, what I'm gonna do here. Do I want to double up on the card drop, or do I want to... Risky move here. Yeah, why not? Can get 2 card draws and 2 damage. That's a useful play. Probably gonna kill my sharpshooter next turn, whatever. But at least I got a little value out of this, so that's good. Ah, that O'Hare. I know he's just gonna get rid of my sharpshooter though. I really want to get that O'Hare out and do some bad damage. Oh yeah? Okay. Okay, yeah. And this is where he kills it, right? That's it. Okay. What a shame. I'll need that leader, but not now. So first let's do some card drawing. Nope. Just gonna do a lot of drawing. Gonna do a ton of drawing. Okay, cool, that's useful. Right, so yeah, the last thing I want to say about North Hamgyong is Chongjin, the city. It's the biggest city. It's a huge city, actually, historically. Japanese turned it into this port and railroad because it's on the way to Manchuria. It's on the East Sea, or you can call it the Sea of Japan, whichever. I can't use the rep. I can really see a point in bending my hunter now. Can't use the seam rep. I can't really do anything too cool. And he can take the sharp... Oh, that's what he's gonna do. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I'll let him take the sharpshooter or whatever, and then I'll just airbend it after that. Definitely save the airbender for that. It's a shame that I can't get the second ascension, but at least I get one extra draw here. So yeah, Chongjin, it's on the way to Manchuria. It was this useful railroad type situation. It's the 3rd biggest city in North Korea, and it's like, I guess you could call it like the Pyongyang of the Northeast. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to use this next. It's not really that important. Okay, so it should be the Busan of North Korea. That was the intention. So they turned it into a special economic zone, but it hasn't really. What can I do to get rid of that guy? It hasn't worked out so good. It has like a quarter of the country's trade, but it's really hard to get to because it's so far from Pyongyang. Power goes out all the time. Markets have been cracked down on. Kind of has this image, if you ask people who used to be there, this image of like a glory days of the past, kind of a post-industrial city, which is just wild when you consider that the industries of the area have been just barely broken into. You got me good. Okay. Which one is most useful? Okay, I'm gonna seam rip. Seam rip this shelter, because that gives much more value. And then I can airband this guy, which brings it back to my hand. So that's, okay, that's some solid value. And then warp the Halia. I don't think this is a great time to airbend the wrench guy, but I can drop this guy down here. Man, I really wish. I wish I had a little more control over here. Our bow would be good. Can I get out to? Oh, I should just. Yeah, of course he does that. Okay, and I can airbend that dude and then drop him down next time, so that'll get my ascension off. Sweet. Sweet, we are cooking. Stealing is cool, but it's not as cool with someone who airbends. Yeah, I just think it's a shame that Chongjin is this post-industrial city when you think about how the industries of the country just have barely gotten going. It's crazy to think about how much fell apart after the Soviet Union collapse, right? Who knows, maybe we'll see something new happen. All right, if I do this, do I want more cards or do I want to? Okay, either way, I want to get this guy away from here. Oh, I can bounce. Oh man, I have so many good options here. So many good options. Okay. I'm gonna get this guy back in action. I really wish I could have played the Halia this turn, but that's fine. And then go all in, so really put some bad pressure on him. And now I can bend my boy Aang, which will let me take back a few of my own things, right? And now, do I want to airbend Aang again? No, let's airbend the Hunter. Alright, you can keep taking my stuff like this, but it's Yeah, you're gonna be inconvenienced unless you get rid of that Ang. Shoot, man, the Ang combo is very solid. Alright, he's got to do something big this turn or he's going to be screwed. I have the sharpshooter, I have the Ang. The Elspeth is cool, it's very useful, but it's not... Yeah, okay. That's a good move. It's a very good move. I was using it to take back all my stuff. Okay, yeah, I mean, it's looking kind of good for him, but I don't know if he has enough stuff. Everything is tapped. Okay. Okay, cool. What do I want to... Right. So I want to get this guy down as soon as possible so that I can start dishing out extra damage. Should have seam ripped first, I think, so I could get rid of that ascension. So 2. Yeah, get the ascension out. Hopeful Hunter down. And that's basically it. I think I've won this now. That's 4, and then I got the end of turn blink, and that's it. No, I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna ruin his day. And that should be it. Nice. Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll see something new happen. Maybe Russia will be interested in reviving the border area. If you haven't been seeing the news, North Korea and Russia are pretty good buddy these days. By the way, one more cool little thing. So besides Pyongyang, Chongjin is the only city in North Korea that has trams, or streetcars, trolleys, whatever you like to call them, street trains, right? But good luck getting on one. The electricity is always out. All right, and then right on the edge we have Daesan. This is the last part of the northern border. It's actually a special city, not a province. I mean, Chongjin is a special city within a province, and Daesan is a special city outside of the province. It was the first special economic zone. It was set up in 1991. It was kind of a good idea. It was based on China's SEZs, which those were pretty useful for China to help it become the big world player that we see today. But basically, it didn't really become this investment zone for Americans or Europeans. If we think about what we saw in China, like Hong Kong and Shenzhen and stuff like that. I think it really only ever became a trade zone for like Russia, China, and Japan. Even South Korea kind of passed it over, just too far. They tried to make it like a kind of Hong Kong. Didn't happen. I think you can use foreign money there, which is not supposed to be okay anywhere else in North Korea. It's kind of an experiment, not a very good one. Chinese invest in fishing and not in a whole lot of anything else. Not enough electricity either. You'll start to see this pattern. I think the whole point of Daesan is to be a Russia trade zone, but that doesn't really work either. So fun fact, North Korean and Russian trains, they cannot actually run on each other's tracks because there's a 100mm difference in the track gauge. Russian trains are literally too wide to go to North Korea. So there's some dual track rails in Daesan, but I guess the trains can't really get past that city. So I'm not really sure of the point, if I'm to be honest. Maybe some rail trade expert can point me in the right direction and explain how that's supposed to work out. Yeah, all right, so unfortunately this talk did get a little bit technical in places. maybe don't care that much about mining or trade. So that's a big part of the identities for these provinces, I think. That's a little bit what I've been talking about, more than a little bit of what I've been talking about. So let me tell you just I guess one little fun fact about each place. I'll start with Shiniju. Shiniju has some of the most Chinese-style food in the country, like tons of garlic and oil and Chinese-style noodles. If you weren't aware, North Korean food is a little bit on the bland side, which, I mean, that probably doesn't strike anyone as a surprise, right? Chagang. Chagang has tons of wood. They use it for like sleds, fire, stuff like that in the winter. Hold on, wait just a second. Let me see if I can get this right. So I'm gonna play... Well, if I play this guy first and then play the Starfield, that's only gonna be 2, right? Yeah, I don't see a point in doing that. I'll just go out with this guy first. Oh, these are both sweet options, but I really need the airbender to get going, so I'm gonna do that. Unfortunately, that is a land, so I can't really do anything. Yeah, I'll go ahead and do this. So first I'm gonna buff our friend Abo, which lets me get the Ascension out. And, oh, I can. Oh, because it is a creature. Okay, sweet. And because that's exile, it just goes back to being a normie. And then just send this guy in and get a little bit of... So I want more land? Yeah. Yeah, I want more land. I can always get that light stall guy later. Sweet. All in. Okay. So Chagang, next province over. Chagang has tons of wood. This one guy was interviewed and he said that just everything is wood there. They use it for sleds and for fire, stuff like that in the winter. It actually sounds pretty cozy. Wow. Wow, man. This is such a jerk card. I don't know why it has so many things that it does. It just doesn't make sense to me that it can do so much. Alright, I want to... Okay, yeah, I can do this thing now. Get this down, get 2 of these guys. That activates my Ascension, and then now I can bounce this guy. Stays on the field. Pretty good. Sweet. Too bad I can't seam rip that. Lianggang, like I was saying before, it has the mountains and the lake, right? Unfortunately, we don't have that much else data on what Lianggang looks like. But if I meet someone from Heisan, then I'll be sure to ask them some more details, and I'll try to bring that up in a later video, because I'm sure it could probably meet a few. Was it just Elspeth you got? There are a couple of fun things about North Hamgyong. It's known as a sea zone, so a lot of good comes from that. It's a good place to eat squid. I personally love squid. Most Asians do. Not so sure about people back home, but... man, both of these suck. Both of these suck. I think... I can't really put down any creatures this turn now because they got rid of my thing. So I'm just gonna... Yeah, he's gonna keep getting rid of all of my colored stuff if I just let him sit around, so I gotta get rid of him. Man. I think I should have gone in with a shepherd first. I could have gotten one more lamb. That was a dumb move. At least I can do this. Yeah. Here you go. And yeah. Bounce this guy a little bit. One more life, can't draw. Oh wow. Goes on. Right. You ever try squid jerky? It's delicious. It's a big thing in Chongqing. Also, there were a bunch of like historic sea town resorts there in Chongqing, which makes sense. Japanese always love seaside spas and things like that, so I guess it was the same when they were occupying it. I don't feel like dealing with this anymore, so this is just too powerful. Way too broken. Daesan too, if you take a tour there, you can hit up their beaches, but you probably have to be Russian. Well, I don't know, not necessarily actually. When I was digging through some videos earlier, I did hear, I think, a British accent, and that, what was it called? The Young Pioneers, that tour group, they do trips to Daesan as well, I think. But yeah, it's this place where it's normal to not be Korean. You know, Westerners and Russians are not exactly common across North Korea, so if you're in North Korea and you're not in Pyongyang, then you're definitely going to stand out. But in Daesan, I think it's just kind of normal. And they have some casinos there too, but I imagine North Koreans probably can't use them, right? If you're curious, there's actually quite a few videos of Daesan from tourists on YouTube, so just go check them out, right? But you know, keep in mind those are tourist videos, right? They're not videos from North Koreans, so it's a lot of limited perspective. It's not necessarily a good insight into how locals along the northern border are living their lives. All right, so yeah, of course we still have the rest of the country to cover, but this seems like a pretty good time to take a break. Otherwise this video is going to be like 3 hours long. So next time I think I'm going to pick up from here, and I'm going to cover central and maybe southern parts of the country, not including Pyongyang. Yeah, see what we can dig up. One thing I do want to point out is that the northern side is generally more understood than the rest of the country. You might find that the information on most parts of southern North Korea besides Pyongyang, there's kind of limited information, or it's very controlled information. Like the information we get is more state messaging, more like controlled messaging. Why? Why is that? You can guess, right? Because it's where people escape from. And we have to get our insider scoop from somewhere, right? Oh, man. I really hope you enjoyed this talk, and I hope you learned something from it. So now if someone asks you, like, what do you actually know about North Korea? You can tell them something that even South Koreans wouldn't know. You can be like, hey, do you know about Chagang? Did you know it's where you can go to ride sleds or eat your kimchi with wooden forks or something? That's pretty cool. If you want to learn more about these places, you can check the citations list. I tried to include a lot of useful information. Or you can just plug them into YouTube and you can get some visuals. I was actually kind of surprised to see how much detail there is on some of this stuff. There's a lot more to see and understand than what I gave you. So just think of today's talk as just kind of your gateway into understanding North Korea as a real place. All right, yeah. Thanks for stopping by.